In the dead of night, near the old church at Mawnan, a young American tourist walking through the woods saw something that would haunt her forever. A massive, feathered figure, at least 5 feet tall, with glowing eyes and huge clawed wings, rose silently from the shadows. It flew toward her, wings stretching wide, a living nightmare come to life. She ran, screaming, and never looked back. I'm Uncle Perry. I don't just tell stories, I dig up the fucked up ones most folks are too chicken shit to talk about. And I do it in a cavalier kind of way. From cryptids and government secrets to UFOs and aliens, I chase down the truth behind the legends. This week, we're going international, to Cornwall in the UK. I'm talking about Mothman's cousin, the Owlman of Mawnan. Y'all ready to tear it up? Let's get it! The first hint. Back in 1926, the Cornish Echo, a local newspaper covering news across Cornwall, reported something wild. 2 boys got chased by what was described as a massive, ferocious bird near the Church of Mawnan. The kids were terrified, sprinting for their lives. Luckily, they ducked behind a big steel grating to escape. According to the lore, this was the very first hint of the creature that would later be known as the Owlman, the Churchyard Scream. Alright, this one's the first recorded sighting of the Owlman, and it's a doozy. April 17, 1976, the Melling family, Don, his wife, and their 2 daughters, June, 12, and Vicky, 9, were on holiday in Cornwall, visiting from Preston, Lancashire. They'd stopped in the woods next to St. Mawnan and St. Stephen's Church for a picnic. While the parents were setting up, the girls wandered off to play around the gravestones in the churchyard cemetery, because that's totally normal. Not long after, Don and his wife heard a blood-curdling scream. They looked over and saw their daughters sprinting toward the car, waving their arms wildly, completely losing their shit. June and Vicky were inconsolable, practically begging their parents to leave the area immediately. Once safely back at the campsite, they explained what happened. While exploring the cemetery, they'd heard a weird hissing sound coming from above them. Looking up, they saw something straight out of a horror movie. A massive-ass bird-like humanoid hovering just a few feet above the church tower. We're talking a huge feathered figure, wings spread, red eyes glowing like coals, and claws shaped like 2 blacksmith's pincers. It wasn't just a big-ass owl. It was a humanoid, weirdly intelligent and utterly terrifying. The girls described it silently floating there, watching, like some winged demon waiting to swoop down. Later that day, Don ran into paranormal researcher Tony Shields at the Penryn Steam Fair, thinking Shields was pulling some prank on his daughters. Shields swore he had nothing to do with it, but asked if he could talk to June and Vicky. Don said no way. The girls were still way too freaked out. But he did hand over a drawing June had made of the creature, a haunting sketch of what Shields called the Owlman. The sighting freaked the family out so badly they cut their holiday short by 3 days. And honestly, if I saw a massive winged fucker hovering above a church tower, I'd be hauling ass too. This was the first glimpse of the Owlman, and it left a psychological mark on those kids that hasn't gone away. The Woods Stalker. A couple of months after the Melling girls' encounter, in June 1976, 2 boys, 10 and 12, were messing around in Mawnan Woods when they saw something straight up terrifying. A black-winged humanoid was flying low through the trees, gliding silently like it was stalking prey. Its eyes were glowing in the dim dusk light like twin red coals staring right at them. The kids freaked the hell out and ran like their asses were on fire, swearing they'd never go near that part of the woods again. The Campsite Watcher. By now, the woods around Mawnan were becoming a hunting ground. Just 3 weeks later, the Owlman showed up again, this time on July 3rd, 1976, and it scared the shit out of two 14-year-old girls, Sally Chapman and Barbara Perry. They were camping in Mawnan Woods when they spotted something straight out of hell. At first, they thought it was some asshole in a costume playing a joke on them. But holy shit, it was no joke. The girls described a massive bird-like creature, silver gray, about the size of a man with pointed ears, glowing red eyes and black claws for feet that looked like pincers. It wasn't just standing there, it was watching them, tilting its head like it was studying them, locking onto them like a hawk. The thing had legs that bent backward, its wings folded tight but ready to spread wide. When it finally took off, it didn't just fly away quietly. The movement was powerful and silent, leaving an eerie static-like hum that lingered in the trees for a long time afterward. As the sun dipped and fog started rolling in, the girls noticed it again, sitting on a low branch, blending almost perfectly into the gray haze. Its flat, owl-like face and tufted ears gave it a disturbingly human expression, and those glowing red eyes locked on them. Then it let out this goddamn blood-curdling scream, a mix between a hoot and a human cry, chilling them to the bone. With one powerful flap of its wings, it vanished into the night sky, leaving nothing but fear and unanswered questions. Sally and Barbara ran back to their campsite trembling, and later reported what they saw to the authorities and the media. They even gave drawings of the creature which closely matched earlier sightings. This encounter helped cement the Owlman as a real, terrifying phenomenon in Mawnan Woods. A creature that wasn't just a rumor, but something that had clearly been watching, waiting, and terrifying anyone who happened to stumble into its territory. The Underbrush Lurker. The encounters were escalating in both frequency and aggression. Within days, in August 1976, a couple walking through Mawnan Woods got a hell of a shock. They spotted a feathered creature lurking in the underbrush, wings folded tight like a bat, just waiting in the shadows. Its red eyes glowed in the dim light, staring right at them. They both felt that gut-chilling sense that they'd stumbled onto something not of this world. They bolted the hell out of there, shaken and wide-eyed, swearing they'd never wander through those woods at dusk again. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't fucking around. The Rural Path Phantom. 5 sightings in 5 months. Whatever this thing was, it had claimed Mawnan as its territory. In September 1976, a local guy in his 20s was walking a rural path near Mawnan when he ran into something seriously freaky. Out of nowhere, he saw a shadowy figure gliding through the trees, silent, except for this eerie owl-like call that made his skin crawl. At first, he thought he could chase it down, maybe catch whatever the hell it was. But no chance. The thing shot off through the air like it was Superman, disappearing before he could get close. All that was left was a creepy, lingering feeling that something totally unnatural had just been watching him like prey. He didn't stick around to find out more. The Church Return. In May 1978, another freaky Owlman encounter went down near St. Mawnan and St. Stephen's Church. This one comes from a woman named Kate who told her story to Barbara Fennell, a paranormal investigator from London. Kate and her friend Anne were walking home along the road one evening when Anne started crying and pointing at the church, insisting she saw a man with wings. Naturally, Kate looked, and holy shit, there it was, a massive Birdman-like creature rising into the air like it owned the place. About 4 feet long with huge piercing eyes, not red, but intense as fucking hell, and a pointy beak that somehow sat over human-like lips. Its wings were the freakiest part, like one enormous feathery cloak that flapped together instead of spreading like normal wings. Every movement was unnatural, and it felt like it was staring straight into their souls. Kate and Anne scrambled into a hedge, hearts pounding, just watching as the thing hovered and glided silently. The only sound? The flapping of those massive wings. Eventually, it vanished into the woods, leaving the girls terrified and questioning their sanity. Rumors about the Owlman were already swirling around Mawnan. However, Kate said nobody believed her story. After all these years, she admitted, "I can only say that I don't believe it was a bloody owl." This sighting added another spine-chilling chapter to the Owlman legend. Proof that whatever the hell this thing was, it wasn't just a story. The Tower Vigil. In 1978, the Owlman pulled out one of its rare group appearances, and a bunch of locals saw it at the same time. People near Mawnan Church reported a massive, winged figure hovering ominously over the church tower. This wasn't some quick glimpse either. They watched it for several minutes, frozen in a mix of awe and straight-up terror. Witnesses described it as a huge, feathered thing, wings spread wide, giving off a vibe that screamed, "Don't fuck with me." And then there was the sound, a loud, piercing screech that cut through the air, unlike any owl or bird anyone had ever heard. The locals said it felt almost alive with menace, like it was sizing up the village below. For a creature that usually lurks in the shadows, this fucker stood out because multiple people saw it at once. No one could explain it away as imagination or a prank. That night, the Owlman reminded everyone in Mawnan that it was real, and it wasn't here to dick around. People didn't stop talking about it for weeks, and even now, it's remembered as one of the most spine-chilling moments in the Owlman's history. The Tree Perch. In the summer of 1989, a teenage boy had a seriously creepy encounter with the Owlman while on holiday with his girlfriend and her family. The couple decided to take an evening stroll somewhere near St. Mawnan and St. Stephen's Church, though he admitted years later he couldn't remember the exact spot. Either way, what they stumbled on was fucked up. Up in a tree, about 15 feet above them, stood a figure straight out of a bad dream. It was around 4 feet tall. It had a human-like body covered in light gray feathers, a flat, owlish face, and those creepy, pincher-like feet. Its wings were long and powerful, folding and shifting in a way that made it look both alive and utterly alien. The teens froze, hearts hammering, unable to look away. Then the creature moved, jumping down behind a tree, making them realize they were way out of their depth. That was their cue to run like hell. Screaming, they beat feet back towards safety, freaking the fuck out and not daring to look back. It wasn't just a bird, and it sure as hell wasn't a person in a costume. The thing had weight, presence, and an intelligence that left the couple emotionally damaged for the rest of the holiday. The Owlman had shown up again, silent, menacing, and 100% unforgettable. The Pub Woods ambush. Later in 1989, the Owlman struck again, this time fucking up a young couple in their 20s near Mawnan. After leaving a pub, they decided to take a stroll through the woods. Everything seemed normal at first, until a sudden rush of air made them freeze. They looked up, and holy shit, something massive was descending from the trees. The creature was tall, with a shiny black body and huge wings partly folded, and analyzing them like a hunter. Its legs bent backward in that weird, unnatural way, and those claws on its feet scraped the ground as it moved closer. Then they saw the eyes, bright red, glowing like twin warning lights in the dark. The couple screamed, their adrenaline kicked in, and the Owlman didn't hesitate. It leapt into the air, wings flaring, and took off, vanishing into the night. For a few heart-pounding seconds, it had them pinned, frozen by fear and disbelief. It was no way in hell a person in a costume or a trick of the moonlight. This damn thing was big, intelligent, and otherworldly. The couple bolted the hell out of there, and just like that, the Owlman left behind another story to haunt the woods of Mawnan. The American Witness. One of the wildest Owlman sightings dropped in the summer of 1995. A young American marine biology student was wrapping up her trip to Cornwall when she had a straight-up chilling encounter near the old church at Mawnan. She later sent a letter to Simon Parker, the night editor of the Western Morning News, and holy fucking shit, her description does not hold back. She said she was walking a narrow wooded path just after 9 p.m. when she spotted something about 30 meters ahead. A 5-foot-tall Birdman hybrid straight out of a goddamn horror movie. A silver gray feathered body, long bird legs ended in black talons, huge clawed wings, pointed ears, glowing eyes, the whole freaky package. The thing didn't just stand there either. According to her letter, it rose up and floated toward her like it had zero regard for gravity. She screamed, bolted, and didn't stop until she was safely out of the woods, her heart pounding out of her chest. She later admitted the whole thing felt irrational and dreamlike, but she was absolutely convinced she'd seen Cornwall's infamous Phantom Owlman for herself. And after that night, she said she had to rethink her entire worldview. The Investigator's evidence. In recent years, the legend of the Owlman has not died out. In August 2019, a team calling themselves Ghost Adventures of Cornwall, investigators Mark Davies and Chris Power, traveled to the churchyard at St. Mawnan and St. Stephen's, near Mawnan Smith. In a nighttime investigation, they heard hissing up in the trees and flapping about overhead. They were getting answers to their questions via spikes on their EMF meter. And most incredibly, witnessed a horned, goat-legged shadow figure which left scratch marks on one of Chris's arms. Their footage, featured in a television episode and circulated online, marks one of the most recent publicized encounters with the Owlman. Of course, not everyone buys into the whole Owlman legend. Skeptics have a few solid theories about what might explain these creepy-ass sightings. Author Joe Nickell points out that church towers are prime nesting spots for barn owls, and it's entirely possible the early sightings came from a pissed-off owl defending its turf. Since most of the Owlman encounters were concentrated around a very small area, a nearby nesting owl could easily account for the flurry of reports, especially if people wandered too close and got a good scare. Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe, author and Fortean TV presenter, suggests that a Eurasian eagle owl could also be behind the legend. This is the largest owl in Europe, with a wingspan of around 6 feet and piercing yellow eyes that, under certain lighting, might appear red. It's silent in flight and impressive in size, qualities that match a lot of the descriptions from terrorized witnesses. Also, historical records from the 1970s show that some of these owls escaped from private collections, which could explain why people started seeing them in human-populated areas, especially around church towers and wooded paths. Environmental psychology adds another layer. Mawnan's isolation and Celtic history make residents more likely to see shapes and patterns in the dark, a phenomenon called pareidolia. When you mix that with a community already saturated in stories of shape-shifting spirits like Bucka, it's easy to see how a normal owl or a strange shadow could suddenly become a fucked-up-looking birdman in the imagination of locals. Occult historian Gareth Medway suggested that some of the sightings could have been a hoax, pointing to Doc Shields, a local artist and magician with a history of pranks, as a potential instigator. According to this theory, a lot of the Owlman excitement could have been deliberately stirred up to freak people the fuck out. There's also the possibility of escaped great gray owls. These birds can have a wingspan of up to 2 meters, massive talons, and can stand around 4.5 feet tall. That's awful damn close to some of the descriptions of the Owlman. The one problem? The sightings stretch across decades, far longer than any single escaped owl would likely survive in the wild. In short, whether it's giant owls, overactive imaginations, pranks, or a mix of all three, there are several possible explanations for Mawnan's freaky feathered faux pas. But that doesn't mean shit to the people who swear they saw it with their own eyes. For folks who lean toward the weirder side of things, the Owlman isn't just some oversized pigeon or a confused owl. There are plenty of believers who think the sightings tie into something way deeper. Ancient energies, strange rituals, interdimensional slips, and even straight-up alien weirdness. Let's start with the land itself. St. Mawnan and its church sit smack in the center of ancient earthworks, and a shitload of researchers say there's a ley line cutting right through the area. Ley lines, if you've never dug into that rabbit hole, are pathways for Earth's energy. And Mawnan Woods? Visitors swear the area is alive, buzzing, humming, pulsing with something you can't quite explain. So is it possible that the Owlman sightings were triggered by the energy of the land itself? Maybe the creature is somehow tied to that energy. Then there's the creepy connection between owls and aliens. And yeah, that sounds like a big leap until you realize how often abductees report seeing owls right before or right after some freaky UFO encounter. Some believe these aren't owls at all, but screenshots, fake images slapped over the actual beings to keep people from losing their shit. If that's true, the Owlman sightings might not be a cryptid at all, but an alien wearing a feathery disguise. The glowing eyes, the silent flight, the sudden appearances and disappearances, the eerie voyeurism from the trees vibe. They all fit UFO encounters as much as they do cryptid tales. Some UFO researchers even argue the Owlman might be an alien scout, slipping in and out of our reality to keep tabs on us, like some creepy cosmic babysitter. Another theory dives into the occult history of the area. This is where it gets super weird real fucking fast. In the 1930s, two artists, Mary E. Comfort Ernst and Wallace A. Carrington, lived near Mawnan. They were ass-deep into occult symbolism, especially bird imagery. Ernst painted owls. Carrington sketched rituals. And together they apparently blended local pagan practices with Thelema-inspired ceremonies. Some believers think they accidentally stirred shit up. A thought form, an energy being, whatever you want to call it. With enough focus and intent, some traditions say you can create a creature through belief and ritual. And the timing is interesting. Owlman sightings started hitting the public about 40 years after their most active period, matching the old idea that energies shift or return along generational or solstice cycles. And Cornwall itself has layers of lore backing this kind of supernatural explanation. Some people believe the ancient burial sites and rock formations around the area act as dimensional gateways, thin places where reality wears down and lets other things slip through. The old stone churches, especially the ones built on earlier sacred sites, are seen as anchors or junction points. If something weird were going to pop in and out of our world, a place like Mawnan would be a prime location. Finally, the more cryptozoological believers argue the Owlman might just be a species we haven't classified yet. Maybe a massive owl, maybe a mutated one, or maybe something that just doesn't fit neatly into our biology textbooks. Others go even further and suggest it's an interdimensional being popping into our world just long enough to scare the absolute shit out of anyone unlucky to cross paths with it. Whatever the case, believers say there's too much weirdness, too many sightings, and too many consistent details for it all to be simple misidentifications. Something strange is lurking in those woods, and it sure as hell ain't no owl. The Owlman of Cornwall isn't supposed to exist. According to everything we know about biology and zoology, a creature like this shouldn't be out there. Yet decades of consistent reports from numerous witnesses suggest something far stranger is lurking in those woods. It's that clash between what makes sense and what terrifies us that keeps people obsessed with it, drawing us toward the edges of the unknown. The truth remains slippery, hidden in the mists of Mawnan and the black shadows of the night sky. The Owlman doesn't need clear photos, DNA, or irrefutable proof to hold power. Its strength comes from the unanswered questions, the chilling testimonies, and the gnawing dread that creeps in when you imagine something silently watching from above. It embodies the wild, the unseen, and the primal fears that hide just beneath the surface of everyday life. It's a winged guardian of nature's secrets that we're not meant to fully understand. For some, it's a modern legend that stirs fascination and fear, A reminder that there may still be unknown creatures living in plain sight, only stepping out to watch us from the shadows. For skeptics, it's a lesson in perception, expectation, and the strange ways our minds can fuck with us. And yet, maybe on a moonless night with the wind whispering through the trees, you'll feel it. That weightless, silent gaze, that impossibly quiet beating of wings. Watching, waiting. Then you'll know why people never forget the Owlman. Are you a fan of weird-ass monsters, government conspiracies, aliens, or UFOs? Then tap that like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. Do you think the Owlman of Mawnan is related to, or is the same species as, the Mothman? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're ready to crank that shit all the way up to 11, that join button's got your name on it. For just $2.99, you can have my back in a huge way. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.